We have another good question. What do I do the week before a tournament? Arrow number wise. Really good, because I think we've both got a few stories here.
Yeah.
So broadly speaking, I'm going to talk you through, for me, if we're assuming here we have a weekend tournament, let's say we're going to shoot Saturday and Sunday. For me, I would generally have a normal training week up until probably Wednesday. Then I would so I might be shooting between 200 to 400 hours a day. Then on Thursday, I would try and have a higher volume day. Thursday, I would try and get up to whatever my sort of maximum was, which for me was normally like 350, 400 arrows. Then Friday, I would have, broadly speaking, a half day. So that might be 100 arrows, 150. But I'm going to always throw in a caveat here about when real life interferes with training. Because for me, normally, there's no tournaments where I lived in Suffolk, so I would be driving to a tournament. So typically, I would spend the morning and some of the afternoon driving to the tournament, and then I would try and shoot at the tournament in the afternoon, because nearly all of them had practice targets. And then I would do that 150, go and have some food, get an early night, and be ready for the tournament. And I think that's quite a classic example, but I also know I didn't do that much experimentation. And I know that the Friday was a really busy day for me. So it would have been hard for me to shoot 600 hours on the Friday because I've got to travel to the tournament. Now I've got a little story to tell, but first, Ash, do you want to, what did you do for your career? What was your tournament preparation? Is your shooting progressing as you like, or would you like some expert coaching from a friendly face? If so, the details are in the description.
Pretty similar, really. I might have even started a little bit earlier than that. So if we're taking like a long view, maybe it's an international, maybe 3 weeks before I might start slowly tapering down my volume, like 90%, then 80%.
You're talking about a big international, yeah.
Yeah, like a longer one. And then maybe like Monday might be 60% of my arrows that I would normally shoot. Tuesday might be like 55. And then, yeah, definitely by Friday, some internationals I might shoot 70, 80 arrows. And in training, I'd be shooting 400. So quite minimal, not very many. But I have to agree with you. I did that because that is the thing to do. That the thing as in, that's like the accepted periodization of training, and then give yourself some recovery and go to competition. I didn't do that much experimenting with actually like what is actually good for me, other than I felt better when I had a bit more rest, which is a very, very subjective thing.
And the key thing I was aware of, the worst thing I could do before a tournament is feel rushed and unprepared. So by dropping the arrow numbers, you're giving yourself multiple more hours at home or at the hotel to be ready. So I know I was gaining more from possibly having the time to sort out my life and get ready for the tournament than I was the physical side of it. Because the story I want to bring up is the only teammate of mine over the 20, 30 years I was shooting who truly, from what I could see, done true, proper, long-term experimentation of what to do the day before a tournament. She's a 4-time Olympian, very successful. And her findings were totally the opposite of that. She found that the more arrows she shot on Friday, the better she shot on Saturday and Sunday.
I bet she didn't.
Devastating news.
She didn't like that news, did she? Yeah.
Not what she wanted. It's not what anyone would want to hear. But the one person I know who truly put in the time to experiment with all things, she found that she just benefited from that repetition on the Friday. Now, that's really hard to implement. That
is, yeah.
If you're not a professional archer, I wish you luck. And if you don't live, she's lucky she lived near the base where most of the tournaments were, so she could put in that number. But it's really interesting because that's the only athlete, world-class athlete who's publicly shared this information with me. And it was totally the opposite of what we all expected and wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Have you got any other examples to go with that?
So there's one that comes to mind. So Chef Vandenberg, I don't know what time period this was over and exactly the process, but I know that he basically got to the point where he tried multiple different internationals. He basically tried varying how much he shot on the Friday, and he reached the conclusion of he shot his best when he didn't shoot at all. So, so he basically
and
had a full day off on
that
the
doesn't
day
sort of
before.
surprise me. That feels
Yeah.
that it fits in with our model of what we expect to see.
And this is the tricky thing. I'd be interested to know.
So we've got two
because
examples of
completely.
world-class archers, and they're both as far apart as they can be. So I'm glad we made a nice, clear video for everyone to to understand.
Here's what you should do. Yeah.
You
But
should try
indirectly,
400 arrows, and then the next week you should try the 0 arrows and see which one works best.
But indirectly, by not giving an answer, that is, yeah, you need to find out the one that works for you. Because if we told Chef to do what Naomi does, he'd probably shoot terrible. And he probably tried that. I'm knowing Chef, he probably tried shooting.
Yeah, these are professional archers. They would have tried. But it is always interesting to think that I spent 10 years as a professional archer, and I didn't really have any data to back up what I was doing.
No.
And it makes me reflect, and why didn't I do that? It's funny, you can find yourself so stuck in the moment that you don't take that long view of, okay, this year I'm going to do a study on how I train on the Friday and how it affects me on the weekend. So
I think some of it comes down to a lot how you're feeling at the time as well, though, because obviously I don't know the training backgrounds and stuff like that. But say, for example, if someone doesn't shoot that much arrow volume in their normal training. So when I say that much, I'll give some context. Chef, for example, I know he shot hundreds and hundreds of arrows, 4, 5, maybe 600 arrows a day, that kind of thing. Korean archers, same, maybe 800 arrows a day. If, for example, someone, I don't know if this is true or not, but the example you gave, if they shoot 200 arrows a day, and maybe some days they shoot a little bit less, some days a little bit more, and their baseline fatigue is very managed, it's low, they're not overtrained, then they're not going to benefit from a rest on that day before, are they?
Yep.
Whereas if maybe Chef is absolutely nailing it in practice, you've had a really periodized plan and you've gone from, you're shooting 400 arrows a day, and over a 6-week plan, you've gone 400, 440, 450, 500, and you've got up to like 600 hours a day. And then you have a taper and you have that periodization, give yourself like the stimulus and then the recovery. Then I can see why that day off might really bring that fatigue down. So
I'm going
that
to
would
throw
be interesting,
another thing into the mix here is my experience when I was sharing a hotel with the British Olympic rowing team. And I think I mentioned this before. And so rowing team, they're on a training camp leading into a competition to reach peak physical recovery and strength. The men sit on their beds watching DVDs for 3 days before the tournament. Okay. And the women get one afternoon off.
Right.
After the one afternoon, the women start going down in strength and the men increase in strength for 3 days. It's the wonder of testosterone.
Yeah.
And I hadn't ever thought of it. I hadn't ever thought that was maybe could that be a part of the reason why?
Definitely could, yeah.
The female Olympian found one thing. I don't necessarily think it was, but that is how extreme. I mean, the British Olympic rowing team, they are going to know exactly how long it takes people to lose and gain muscle. They are world
they will
leading.
have done blood tests to test it and stuff, won't they?
If they know their men need 3 days to reach maximum strength, they are going to know that. And if those same people have decided the women get one afternoon off,
that's brutal. Get back to work.
To training, and then it's like, see you later. So is that a gender thing? Is that a testosterone-related difference? Seth is getting stronger for 3 days.
Yeah.
And our female Olympian is getting weaker after one afternoon. I don't know. But that just shows, if we're talking about it from a purely biological difference, not all people are the same. And that was a shocking difference to me. But I've had this with particularly with the female compound archers shooting 58, 60 pounds. They have a day off, they're okay. They have 2 days off, they can't draw their bow.
Wow. Okay.
Whereas I haven't shot in 15 years and I could go and shoot a 60-pound compound tonight.
Yeah, it's not as
I'll be knackered at the end, but I can do it.
Yeah.
And a female world number 1 athlete has 2 days off and then she can't pull a bow back. So there is definitely a muscle recovery and wastage issue here to consider. And I don't, because often with archery, I don't think it is a strength thing. There's so many other factors that affect our performance more than pure strength. And I always assumed the high arrow volume was because it ingrained the rhythm and the flow, and you took that into the tournament. But clearly, other people. So I know we produced a video again where we can say the answer is, well, yes and no, you know.
It depends.
Maybe you have a day off, maybe you shoot 400 arrows. But I hope it gets across the point to people that you need to, if you've got the chance, you try, you do these experiments, you find out, because we've got 2 world-class Olympians who have reached totally different conclusions. Conclusions backed up by evidence. So hopefully that's given you something to think about. Hopefully it's not giving you something to worry about too much. All right. Thank you very much, Ash. I appreciate that. If you stayed till the end because you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. It really helps me.